Good morning and welcome back to the Messy Cook. It is September and fall is in the air, and I thought I would make this nut coffee cake recipe that was something my mother used to make when we were kids. It's delicious and it's a perfect fall recipe. So take a quick snapshot if you like of the ingredients and instructions, and I'm going to come back, get all of the ingredients ready, and we'll get going with this and teach you how to make a lovely old-fashioned coffee cake. All right, so I think I got everything all together for this recipe. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the topping, and the topping calls for 3 tablespoons of butter. So I've melted that. It's not completely melted, but it's soft enough. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to make sure that's all smushed in. This is a half a cup. Where's it here? Half a cup of brown sugar. So that's pretty firmly packed. So we're going to mix that all together. So basically we're looking to make sort of a crumbly topping here. So we're going to put that like so. Just mix it up quick. And then we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. So if you want a little bit different flavor, you can put in pumpkin spice if you want instead, but I'm going to go with the original recipe, which is cinnamon. So we're going to add that in. And then you can add in a half a cup of chopped nuts, which I actually thought I had some walnuts in there, or pecans, and I don't have either. I do have some almonds, but they're a little bit hard, so it's just a harder nut. It's not as soft, so I'm going to skip the nuts, but you can add in a half a cup of nuts to that. So that's basically the consistency you're looking for. And then what we're going to do is I'm just going to move you over here a little bit. We're going to get to doing the recipe, or for the cake part of the recipe. Again, this is super simple. Just rinsing off my measuring spoon here. So for this recipe, part of the recipe, we're going to do, where is it here? Just got to find the recipe. 2 tablespoons of butter, which I've put in. We're going to add in 2/3 of a cup of sugar, so I've added that in. And I just want to mix this together. It doesn't have to be like whipped up and light, but just kind of mixing that in. Okay, so that's basically mixed in. It's not perfect, but that's good enough. I also have to substitute some things because, of course, I thought I had an egg left and I don't have any. So in place of an egg, I'm using a 1/4 cup of applesauce. This is my homemade canned applesauce I made last year. And a lot of times, if you have an egg allergy, this is actually a really good substitute. So every egg you would normally use in a recipe, you can use a 1/4 cup of applesauce in replacement. So I'm just adding that in, and I want to get a little more mix there. There we go. There we go. So that's just mixed together nicely. We also want to, I'm doing all my wet ingredients, and I'm going to add my dry ingredients into them. Next wet ingredient would be milk, 2/3 of a cup of milk, and I'm out of milk, so I'm using whipping cream. So, and I added a tiny bit of water to it too. I had just a little under 2/3 of a cup of whipping cream. That's 35%. You can use half and half milk or whatever. This is me a little bit more rich because that's all I had. But again, it's always a way to substitute things. So we're going to mix this all together as well. Easy peasy. Next, we are going to add the dry ingredients. So we need 1 1/4 cups of flour. So we'll add that in. This is kind of like a 1 bowl mix, which I really like. You can just kind of add everything in. And I'm just going to measure out 1 1/4 cups of flour here. I'll do it right over my flour bin, so I'm not over measuring. There's 1 cup. And I'll get my 1/4 cup, which will probably be, I'm going to measure the same one because I did the applesauce in the other one. So there's 1 1/4 cups there. So that's good. I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of baking powder. So I've got my baking powder here. We'll just add that right on top. So two even teaspoons of that. I just scrape it along the side, make sure it's even. So we want 2 of those. Don't use baking soda in place of this. Trust me, it will not taste very nice. And there we go. And this is an old-fashioned recipe. This is like grandma's 1-bowl cake. So super, super simple. Flour, baking powder. Oh, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So I'll add that in. I'm just using table salt. Don't use coarse, just use regular old table salt is fine. It's a 1/2 teaspoon of that. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So I'll pop that on the side so it doesn't clump with the dry ingredients. And we're just going to use 1 teaspoon of that as well. So I'm just going to add that in. There we go. And I'll just put that on the side where the liquid's still sitting. So I'm just going to tidy this quick and we're going to get this mixed. Okay, so I'm just going to get this all mixed up. You just want this till it's combined, and we'll whip it for, or mix it for about 1 minute after it's all combined. I'll continue with that. Okay, so I've mixed that up. Be sure you scrape down the sides. You want to make sure everything's in there. This to the side so it doesn't tip over again. Oh, I'm having quite the moment. There we go. Oh, that's because my cord is caught in the drawer. That helps. So yeah, scrape down the sides to make sure you get everything in there. The other thing I'm going to do is last year I made this apple powder when I did my apple, that's just a soap pad to keep it dry. When I made my applesauce last year, I saved all the apple peels and I dried them in my dehydrator and put it down to a powder. So it's nice to add to things like cakes and whatnot. So I'm going to add 1/2 tablespoon, which is 1.5 teaspoons, to my topping mix, just to give a little extra fall flavor. So that doesn't hurt anybody, and it just gives a little extra, you know, with the applesauce in here in place of the egg. I think that gives a little extra something. So we'll just give that one last mix. This is a very thick batter, and that's okay. So we're going to whip that on high for about 1 minute to get it a little bit lighter, okay? So we'll come back when I'm ready to get this in the pan. Okay, so I've got this batter mixed up. It is, like I said, it's pretty thick, and that's okay. That's what we're expecting. I'm just going to mix in that bit of apple powder in your topping. And remember, if you want to add nuts, you're going to add 1/2 cup of whatever nuts you like. Walnuts or pecans are probably the best, and you're going to chop them into just little pieces about so big, like 1/4 centimeter. Just chop them up to a fairly fine chop. You don't want to powder though. I'm also going to use this old pan. We grew up with pans like this. These aren't my original ones my mother had, but I love these because you can actually move this around and it loosens your cake from the bottom. So I'm just taking a paper towel for the moment, a little piece of butter, and I want to just put a butter all the way around that pan. Top, bottom, sides. Not a crazy thick layer, but thick enough that it is coating everything just nicely. There we go. So that's what we're looking for. And again, you can see how that would just loosen everything off the bottom of the pan. You don't move that when you're cooking or anything. You're just going to do that when you want to serve it. If you want to take it out and put it on a layered plate. So, or not a layered plate, just a cake plate, I should say. So what we're going to do here, we're just going to make sure everything's in order. We're going to take about 1/2 of this dough. Just using my spatula here. 1/2 of that dough is going to go in the bottom. Make sure you hold that if you're using one of these pans, and you're just going to spread it around. This is very thick, so it's hard, so maybe it might be easier just to put little dollops around the pan and then just smooth it out from there. So you're probably going to get about, well, maybe a little bit more here, maybe 1 centimeter. This is an 8-inch pan. If you have a square pan, you can use that as well, and do an 8 by 8 inch square pan. If you have a 9-inch, that would work too, but the layers are going to be a little extra thin. So I'm just going to finish doing that here. There we go. Get that a little bit off with my finger. Spread it around the edges. And we want to just do as even as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we want as even as possible. And get that to the edges. Wipe my finger here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take, I'll get a fresh spoon. We're going to take 1/2 of this ingredients here. And we're just going to literally dollop in little dollops all around the pan. So you just kind of want that all over there. You can spread it a little bit if you like. Doesn't have to be perfect. You just want about half of that mix. Like I said, this is the one that would have the nuts if you so choose to put nuts in it. There we go. This is the kind of cake that your mother or grandmother, depending on your age, would have had when a friend showed up for a cup of coffee in the afternoon when all their chores and whatnot were done. This is just an old-fashioned sort of cinnamony coffee cake. There you go. So that's the first layer done. I'm going to finish the second layer and we're going to come back. Okay, so I've spread out the second layer of cake and I've taken this, it got kind of, it's cool today, so it's kind of gotten a little bit thickened up. So I'm just going to dribble this. So what I did is I put it in the microwave for 10 seconds just to loosen it. And I'm just going to spread this over the top, little dabs everywhere. This way it makes it a little bit more even. There we go. Perfect. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Put that in the sink. And I have a butter knife here. And basically what I want to do is I'm just going to, you're going to see here, I'm just going to run my knife through just a couple of times. Just kind of get that a little bit of the coffee cake, or the coffee sticky sugary mixture, just kind of running through a little bit. And I'll do one all the way around the edges, just spread it around. So what we were looking for is to have that gooey texture kind of bubbling through the entire cake. So that's what we've got. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this, I'm going to pop it in a preheated 350-degree oven for 30 to 40 minutes. And what I'm going to do is check it at 30 minutes and we'll see where we're at. And then basically just cool it in the pan for about 15 or 20 minutes afterwards. You can leave it in the pan if you just want to be lazy, or you can take it out and put it on a cake plate. So I'm going to get this in the oven and we'll come back when it's done. So 30 minutes to start at 350 degrees. Okay, so this is finished baking. I baked at 350 for, this actually took 40 minutes overall, although I did have something else in the oven, so check at 35 and that should do it. And just stab this here and it came out clean, so you can stab it if you pause. Don't stick it in the spot where all of this gooey bits is, but that come out clean. So this is it. It smells absolutely amazing. It smells like a really good apple fritter. So if you wanted, you could try adding in some really small diced apple in the batter as well. Throw that in or grate some up and yeah, add it in and bake it. So you can have like a big apple fritter cake. Anyhow, I'll get a piece of this cut when it's all cooled and show you what it looks like on the inside. I hope you try this recipe. Please join us again. Don't forget to subscribe, please, and hit that little reminder button and click a like. That always helps my channel. Have a great day. Hope you try this cake and let me know what you think.